There is a thin, reflective film that costs about $3 at a hardware store. You press it onto the inside of a sun-facing window, smooth it flat with a credit card, and walk away. Within 20 minutes, the room temperature drops by up to 10 degrees. Your air conditioning unit barely kicks on for the rest of the afternoon. Your electric bill at the end of the month comes back 30 to 40% lower than the month before. The United States Department of Energy tested this material and ranked it as a top-tier technology for energy conservation, with one of the fastest payback periods of any home improvement. NASA developed the core technology in the early 1960s to protect astronauts from the thermal extremes of outer space. It has been wrapped around every manned spacecraft, layered into every spacesuit, and coated onto satellites orbiting the Earth for over 6 decades. Then, the heating and cooling industry did the math. They looked at a $3 sheet of reflective film that eliminates the need for a $10,000 system upgrade, and they made a decision. They decided you should never learn what it is or how simple it is to use. This is the story of aluminized Mylar window film, the NASA-proven material that the HVAC industry buried under a mountain of upsells and service calls. To understand why this works, you need to understand the real reason your house gets hot in summer. It is not because your air conditioner is too small. It is not because your ductwork needs replacing. It is not because you need a $500 maintenance contract. It is because of your windows. According to the Department of Energy, windows are responsible for 25 to 30% of all residential heating and cooling energy use. During cooling season, 76% of the sunlight that hits a standard double-pane window passes straight through the glass and enters your home as heat. That is not a small leak. That is a wide-open door for infrared radiation to flood every room that faces the sun. Your air conditioner then has to work overtime to remove all that solar energy from your living space. The compressor runs longer, the electricity bill climbs higher, and eventually a technician shows up, shakes his head at the thermostat, and tells you the system is undersized. He recommends a bigger unit. A new installation. $10,000 to $15,000. Financing available. But here is what he will never mention. If you stop the heat at the glass before it entered the room, the air conditioning unit you already own would handle the job just fine. In the early 1950s, scientists at DuPont developed an extraordinarily thin polyester film called Mylar. It was strong, flexible, heat-resistant, and remarkably stable. DuPont had created it for industrial applications, but NASA saw something else entirely. They saw a material that could protect spacecraft from the brutal thermal environment of orbit, where one side of a vehicle faces 250 degrees of direct solar radiation, while the other side drops to minus 250 inches shadow. By 1960, NASA had launched the Echo 1 satellite, a massive balloon made entirely of metallized mylar that reflected radio signals across the globe. It was the agency's first passive communications satellite, a 100-foot sphere of aluminized film orbiting the Earth. In 1964, NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center developed the first emergency space blanket using metallized polyester, a material that reflects up to 97% of radiated heat. That same reflective technology was layered into every Apollo spacesuit. 5 layers of aluminized mylar protected astronauts from temperatures that would kill an unshielded human in seconds. The science is simple. When infrared radiation from the sun hits a metallized surface, it bounces back. The heat never converts into thermal energy inside the space. The material does not absorb the energy and release it later like a dark roof or a heavy curtain. It reflects the radiation at the speed of light, sending it back out through the glass before it can warm a single molecule of indoor air. Now take that same principle and apply it to the window in your living room. A sheet of static cling aluminized mylar film applied to the interior surface of a sun-facing window rejects up to 80% of the solar heat that would otherwise pour into the room. The Department of Energy confirms that window films are among the few home improvements that provide year-round benefits, cutting cooling loads in summer and reducing heat loss in winter. Independent testing from the International Window Film Association shows cooling cost reductions of up to 30% in sun-exposed spaces. In hot climates like Texas, Arizona, and Florida, homeowners have reported reductions closer to 40% after treating south-facing and west-facing windows. A professional window tinting service charges $5 to $7 per square foot for installation. For a typical home with 200 square feet of sun-facing glass, that is $1,000 to $1,400. But static cling reflective mylar film from a hardware store or online retailer costs under $3 per window. You do not need a contractor. You do not need special tools. You need a spray bottle of soapy water, a credit card for smoothing, and a pair of scissors. So why is this not sold in the window treatment aisle of every hardware store in the country? Because the United States HVAC industry generates over $130 billion in annual revenue. Replacement and retrofit projects account for more than 55% of all equipment sales. The entire business model depends on convincing homeowners that comfort requires expensive, complex machines that need regular servicing, periodic upgrades, and eventual replacement. A $3 sheet of film that drops your indoor temperature by 10 degrees and cuts your cooling bill by a third does not fit anywhere inside that economic engine. You cannot build a service contract around a piece of static cling plastic. You cannot schedule a $300 annual maintenance visit for a film that requires zero maintenance. And you absolutely cannot justify a $10,000 system upgrade when the real problem was the untreated glass the entire time. The commercial window film industry understands this perfectly. Companies like 3M sell professional-grade solar control films that block up to 78% of solar heat, and they charge premium prices with professional installation requirements. The active ingredient in those films is the same metallized polyester technology that NASA perfected for spacecraft insulation over 60 years ago. They take a material that costs pennies per square foot to manufacture, add proprietary branding and a dealer network, and sell it back to you at 50 times the raw material cost. Now, I need to be straightforward with you because this solution has real limitations. Reflective film reduces the amount of visible light entering the room, so treated windows will look darker from the inside. In winter, the same film that blocks solar heat gain in summer also blocks passive solar heating, which means your heating costs could increase slightly if you leave the film on year-round in a cold climate. Static cling films are removable, so you can take them down in October and reapply in May, but that requires seasonal effort. And reflective films create a mirror effect on the exterior during daytime, which some homeowner associations restrict or prohibit outright. Here is exactly what to do. Identify the windows in your home that receive direct sunlight during the hottest hours of the day. South-facing and west-facing windows are the primary targets. West-facing glass is often the worst offender, because afternoon sun hits at a low angle and pours heat directly into living spaces. Purchase a roll of static cling reflective window film from any hardware store or online retailer. A roll large enough to cover a standard window cost between $3 and $8. Cut the film to fit your window pane, leaving a 1/4 inch of margin on each side. Spray the glass surface with a light mist of soapy water using a standard spray bottle. Peel the backing off the film and press it against the wet glass, reflective side facing outward. Use a credit card or plastic squeegee to push out air bubbles and excess water, working from the center toward the edges. Trim any excess film with a utility knife. Total material cost for an average home with 6 sun-facing windows, $18 to $48. Total time, 1 afternoon. Expected cooling cost reduction based on Department of Energy data and industry testing, 20 to 40%, depending on your climate, window exposure, and how many windows you treat. Compare that to a new air conditioning system, $10,000 to $15,000 installed. Monthly electricity bills of $150 to $300 in peak summer. Annual maintenance contracts of $150 to $500. Filter replacements, refrigerant top-offs, and eventual compressor failures that cost thousands more. NASA figured this out in 1960, wrapping a satellite in aluminized film to manage heat in the vacuum of space. The same physics that protects astronauts from 250-degree solar radiation works on the window over your kitchen sink. The infrared energy hits the reflective surface and bounces back through the glass before it ever warms the room. Your air conditioner is not too small. Your windows are too transparent. And the industry that profits from your discomfort has known the difference for decades. The film is sitting on a shelf right now. $3. No appointment necessary.